Next! Ah, shit. April Fool! No, it's not a next. It's a monthly roundup that I've been promising for what seems like a century or so and haven't got round to yet. Notes. Got notes upon notes upon notes from speaking to various people in the past week about the UK medical scene. So specifically, to be transparent, I've spoken to two of the bosses of Thurismos and the doctor in Canada, Dr. Singh, and what he specialises in is creating living soils for grow operations in Canada. So I got a lot of information from him. That in itself, and all of this information that I've got, all these notes, it should be another video. This is all relevant information, I think, to things we're all going through in the UK medical scene. So where do I start? Irradiation. What the hell happened to the gastropop last week, last month, last time, this batch? What on earth is going on there? I sent them an email, haven't had a response. I sent an email before I got it to Hodeidah about whether it was irradiated or not, because Medbud was confused. I'm recording this on Friday morning. Yesterday morning I had my checkup at Integro, who are connected to IPS. I believe they're all part of the same company, the same group, but we're also Grow as well. And I mentioned my feelings and my review on the gastropop, and he said that he was going to let the people know. It'd be nice to understand what's happened with it. It'd be nice to understand why it sounds like, or from, what commenters have said basically, that this wasn't going to be irradiated and the next batch won't be irradiated. Why was this batch irradiated? So the only thing you can conclude is that there was an outbreak of mould at some point and they simply didn't pass tests, so they had to irradiate it. It's been nuked. It's been nuked from orbit. It's just cardboard. Now it's been beta irradiated, and none of the Peace Naturals range that's been beta irradiated, even the Creamy Keys that's been gamma irradiated, doesn't have this strange cardboardy feel that the gastropop does. This gives off a quarter of the vapour than all of these do. I mean, we're all kind of talking about, and I agree, that gamma irradiating sounds, if you pardon my French, fucking awful. I mean, I don't think there's any logic in the world or any science in the world really is going to convince me that dunking weed in a container into a big vat of water with cobalt 60 or whatever it was in it, but certainly with waste from radiation, waste from nuclear power in it, and actually bombarding it with radioactive waves isn't gonna do something weird to the weed. I don't even think that's scaremongering or 1950s sci-fi. It's been being mutated and it's going to grow legs and spiny things and antenna, and it's going to be enormous. It's going to be huge. It's going to kill us all. But it's certainly doing something to it. Apparently it sits in that vat of water for maybe hours, and the temperature gets potentially up to decarboxylating temperatures. And even if you're on temperatures that are at the verge of decarboxing, you leave that in there for hours, it's going to decarboxylate. You're going to get patches that are probably going to heat up more than other patches. This also makes me wonder if that's why a lot of us are getting such variable reviews from tub to tub, from pot to pot. My tub of gastropop just smelt of ditchweed, brickweed, mown grass. I could smell what it was supposed to be under all that. So in terms of roundup of the month, we know what's coming last. We already know what's coming last. We already know what's getting possibly 1 point. I mean, if I'm looking at Tilray getting 1 point or 0 stars, this isn't far off. That makes me sad. Now, as I've said in another video, that's not the end of the story. There's not just irradiation. We're all at the moment talking about irradiation, and quite rightly, we're not that keen on it. What I haven't seen anyone bringing up yet is post-harvest remediation. Post-harvest remediation is things like using a ZEAL machine, which is XIEL.com, using ozone, using reactive oxygen. Basically a load of industrialised processes, some kind of post-harvest treatment. Those things don't come under the banner of irradiation. Those things don't have to be listed currently. So we don't know if any of these have been treated. I'll say I know that the Thurismos hasn't been. We don't know if any of the rest of these have been treated with these other processes that don't have to be registered, that don't have to be put on the packaging. I should speak to Medbud about this and see if we can get that information on there. I suspect the gastropop, it's either been irradiated, it's been nuked from orbit and been really heavily done because it was really heavily contaminated, or they've done something else to it as well, just to make sure, just to be on the safe side. If they're doing post-harvest remediation, it's being treated, which is making it give off less vapour, have less terpenes, but the ones that are there are so nice that they still shine through. Something is going on with this, I suspect. The difference between the Peace Naturals and the Big Nasty in terms of beta irradiation are fairly substantial and hefty as far as I'm concerned. If we're looking at fruity varieties, non-irradiated, beta irradiated, both fruity, I'm going for the atomic sour grapefruits every single time. Every time it gives off full vapour, therefore it's more economically valuable than the Big Nasty. Terpene wise, with them both being fruity, terpene wise, they taste similar to me. This tastes better to me. This is more effective to me. This feels like it hasn't had post-harvest remediation. Who knows, I might be wrong. It's just had the beta irradiation and it's been gently done. It's not been nuked from orbit, but it's thinking about it, and this is non-irradiated. This is just not worth it. This just isn't worth the money at all. Maybe it's just the tub I got. I urge you, if you're a vaporizer, to check. So how many bowls is it taking you to get where you need to be using this? However nice you think the flavour is, how effective is it actually being? Compare it. If you've got more than just this variety in the house, and you've got another variety that's just as effective, compare the two, the amount of vapour that you get in the thickness of the vapour, and how many bowls it's taking you to get to where you need to be. That shows your economic effectiveness. That extra £3 between the Creamy Keys and the Gastropop, that extra £3 it's vast, it's way more money than that, because this is not economically worth it. And if you can understand that £3 difference going on here, then it brings me on to the £3 difference that's happening between these two. So I think we're figuring out, really, what my best of the month, what my worst of the month is. Worst of the month, definitely. Let's move on to the Creamy Keys, because there's very little to say about that, I guess. Creamy Keys, gamma irradiated, going to be harsh on your throat, gives you a lot of vapour, gives you the effects that you need, that you want, isn't particularly pleasant, it's cheap. For the amount of money, you could probably get something that tastes better. For the amount of money, you could definitely get worse. Hello, Tilray. For the amount of money, where everything currently sits in the UK medical scene, it's not an awful introduction. It should be cheaper, it should be rations. This just shouldn't be allowed. If every tub of this is the same, this just shouldn't even have been allowed. I understand that they needed to make money out of this, but it should have been blasted or something. It should have been turned into some other product where they could get rid of all the microbes out of it and not just have to sell it on in a substandard state the way they have done. This is a rip-off as far as I'm concerned, the way it stands at the moment. This is an absolute rip-off. This isn't right. This is a rip-off for patients as far as I'm concerned. If it's working for you, it's still not economically viable. We should be expecting better from producers. I'm supposed to be talking about the Peace Naturals, aren't I, or the Creamy Keys. Creamy Keys over the Gastropop until the next batch comes in. That still stands. Worst, next one in line. My review of the Space Cake still stands. I'm hearing people say good things about the Space Cake, but I got through it so quickly. It wasn't doing that much. Maybe it's the most irradiated of the lot, I don't know. It had the least amount of flavour for me. Wedding Cake next in line, it didn't liven up, neither did the Space Cake, but I probably didn't give it long enough. The Wedding Cake had a Boveda pack in it for the longest, and I used it last. So that had the longest to sit and liven up with Boveda. It didn't really. What's hiding in there, the terpenes that are hiding in the Wedding Cake, I think are amongst my favourites, but it just didn't pull itself together really. Maybe it was just this tub. It's the only tub I've had, and I seem to be finding that tubs are quite variable sometimes. Maybe it's just this batch, but for me, this is the second least of the Peace Naturals range, just because, let's get rid of that, just because it didn't liven up and become what it could be. Almost joint first place is the ASG and the GMO cookies. The ASG, the flavour was a breath of fresh air, if you'll pardon if that even is some kind of pun. The Atomic Sour Grapefruit, I can smell from the kitchen, I can smell from another room. The Atomic Sour Grapefruit is just a delight. The flavour is beautiful. It doesn't feel like it's suffered that much from the beta irradiation. Peace Naturals, however you're growing this, please sort it out so you don't need to irradiate any of it. I know you've made a choice at some point along the line to sacrifice quality over quantity and to allow there to be more microbes and bacteria so you can keep growing the amount you're growing. But these would be so much better if you didn't irradiate them. The wedding cake would be incredible if it wasn't irradiated. The GMO cookies has got just a good strong flavour as well. It feels like it's survived the irradiation process as much as the grapefruit has. The ASG, the flavour was there from the start and it just didn't improve or go away. Let's crown the winner with a bowl. We all know what the winner is. It's been noticeable right from the start in my initial videos that there was something going on with Therismos. My inklings and what it started making me talk about, it turns out were I was going along the right lines. Atlantic Blue is last month's winner of Prescription Flower of the Month. Therismos is definitely the winner. Hooray! Let's crown it. I don't know what I'm crowning it with, whatever this thing is. Therismos! Atlantic Blue, well done. I've had it confirmed that it's definitely a Gorilla Glue number 4, which is one reason why it turns out I liked it so much and why it knocked me on my arse and made me want to go back to bed before I even finished the bowl. I think renaming it is a slight mistake. There's been a few comments that once people have found out it's Gorilla Glue, they're like, oh right, yeah, I definitely would go for that. And certainly if I'd have known it was Gorilla Glue, I would have got it a while ago, because I love Gorilla Glue. Flavour-wise, it's nothing boutique and niche and special. It's nothing outrageous. It's nothing exotic. But I don't need exotic terpenes to be medicated. And Atlantic Glue, Gorilla Glue, give me the sedative effects that I want. It helps with insomnia. It's fantastic. And this is a fantastic version of Gorilla Glue. This is lovely. If you can absorb the extra £3, this is well worth it for various reasons. This is hand trimmed. It was hand trimmed by a third-party trimmer. I think I'm getting this right. Someone from Therismos hopefully will correct me, and if there's any corrections or disclaimers I'll put them in the comment box below. But I think this was hand trimmed in Portugal. If I recall correctly, the trimming is now being bought in-house. I don't know where that trimming is happening, if it's happening in Canada and then getting packaged and then brought over here. Also, Medbud have said that the size of the leaf, there are new regulations that have come in, so it actually wouldn't be allowed to be that kind of trim job anyway. It would have to be more stringent. So it's an issue that Therismos have to figure out anyway. For the price we're paying, it's kind of, right that kind of leaf shouldn't be allowed. But it was definitely a markdown and makes a customer feel like they're buying something slightly inferior. Or not inferior. There should be more attention to detail for the cost. And the cost. So, I mean, there's not a world that we could be in where I'm going to be happy with the cost of the Therismos. It's medicine and I would like these things to be cheaper. But Therismos have explained to me why they've priced it where they have. And my initial thoughts would have been, it's been priced at that price because it's organic. So it can be priced slightly higher just because they know people will pay a premium for it. That doesn't seem to be the case with the Therismos craft range. Is in-house grown. It's their own company that's growing it. It says this is the cleanest, most bacteria-free weed that hasn't been irradiated. This is as bacteria-free as irradiated weed. Bear that in mind. This is organic and as bacteria-free as irradiated weed. So in terms of price, no, they're not irradiating it, but they are paying a premium themselves to grow it in conditions that mean it doesn't need irradiated, but it's the cleanest of clean products that you can get. It's not just organic, it's not just non-irradiated, it's clean, super clean and designed that way from the start. Now, if we want the industry to go in that direction and for prices to come down, as consumers, those of us that can afford it need to spend our dollar in this direction, not in this direction. This is sending a bad message to the industry. This is saying that if it's not irradiated and it looks good, that's fine. If it smells okay, that's fine. If it gives the effects after you've done X amount of bowls, that's fine. It doesn't make economic sense to buy this. It makes more economic sense to buy this crap. Sorry, Grow, I don't mean it. But, radiation. Therismos say this is non-irradiated, hasn't had any post-harvest remediation. It's been fed aquaponically in living soil, in small batches, spread far enough apart so there's no microbial growth. It's hand-trimmed, it's hang-dried. The love is in this flower. As much as we begrudge these prices, the love is in this. The love is not in this. The love isn't in this, really. The love isn't really in that either. The love's in this. You know, there's every chance that this is just as capitalist as everything else. That this is just like, right, if we can... But the idea is, if we can find the best and claim that we're the best and legitimately or hit all these criteria that make us be able to justify having that higher price, this all could be completely cynical. But the fact remains that cynicism converts into love for what has been grown. And it's clear. This is base level. This is what we should be expecting out of everything. Everything should be as good as this. We just need to get all the economics in a place where we can all afford something as good as this. The soil this is grown in took, I think, if I'm remembering this rightly, took 3 years research. 3 years research. I don't think they've done 3 years research into figuring out how to make sure this doesn't get contaminated by bacteria. Something's going on with the big nasty medical. Don't understand what it is. I'm doing a big bowl of it in the tiny mite at a decent temperature as well, and it's not giving it off the amount of vapour it should. It just isn't. I've now had about 4 massive bowls of this, and it's not doing what it should do to me, which means it's either a daytime strain or something's happened to it. So these are the things that we need to start finding out. This is the information we need to start knowing. We need to start getting harvest times being printed on these tubs for these batches. The batch numbers aren't really helping that much, but they're giving us a clue when fresh things are going on or when changes are being made. But we need a harvest time, and we need to know if there's any post-harvest remediation done on any of this, and not just the irradiation. Therismos, at the moment, are fantastic. They're being really open and ridiculously open with what they're saying. I'm going to see if I can find out from them what their harvest times are, so I can look at the batch number, find out when that was harvested, and therefore we know how long it's been in storage, so we know how old it is. Therismos are also looking at putting humidity regulator bags in the pots as well, which is obviously going to make all of us happy. Therismos Craft is definitely one to watch. But Therismos Access is more likely to be, and certainly at the moment they're all irradiated. Therismos are saying all the right things at the moment. 3% terpenes. This is on their paperwork. 3% terpenes. These guys are telling you what their terpene level is. Not just what percentage of terpenes are in that 3%. Oh, it's 50%. Humulene or whatever. Who cares if there's only 0.5% of terpenes in the overall flower? Who cares about that 50%? It's 50% of fuck all. 3% terpenes in here to go with your 30% THC or your 29% THC. That's how it should be. But for the moment, if you can afford this, we need to help the market move in this direction. These guys want to give us the information. Quality of medicine. It's as simple as that. It's not just about the price we're paying or the price we want to pay. It's about shaping the market to be what we want it to be. It's about speaking up as patients and telling the producers what we want out of them. And it's also trying to get the market and the producers to be more open than they seem to be being. We shouldn't just be being told that this won't be irradiated next time. We need to be told what went wrong, what's being done to fix it, and to make sure there's no post-harvest remediation being done to fix the problem after the grow, rather than fixing the problem before the grow's even started.